In an effort to actually get some of that transparency that we were promised, two congressmen are pushing to declassify part of the government's original 9/11 investigations. Earlier this year, Representatives Walter B. Jones, a Republican from North Carolina, and Stephen Lynch, a Democrat from Massachusetts, were given access to 28 redacted pages of the Joint Intelligence Committee inquiry of 9/11, issued back in late 2002. After reading the documents, the two congressmen are now introducing a resolution that urges President Obama to declassify those 28 pages. Representative Jones stated, quote, "I was absolutely shocked by what I read. What was so surprising was that those whom we thought we could trust really disappointed me. I cannot go into any more than that. I had to sign an oath that what I read had to remain confidential, but the information I read disappointed me greatly," end quote. There's a lot of non-disclosure agreements in the people working in the U.S. government.
You know, I mean, how much secrecy do we possibly need in this country? You know, I mean, realistically. What's interesting is that it's kind of always been rumored, and anyone who's followed like the 9/11 investigations and things like that, it's always been rumored that these 28 pages covered the Saudi Arabian involvement with the 19 hijackers. Remember, 15 of them are actually from Saudi Arabia. Doesn't mean Saudi Arabia necessarily was the only sole proprietor behind 9/11. I think in my beliefs there was a lot of people behind that that had a lot more to do with a guy in a cave. However, these 28 pages could, if we can see them, provide maybe, you know, the monies that were exchanged, or provide a little more information to find out just where Saudi Arabia played into it, and then knowing that Saudi Arabia a lot of times is works hand in hand with our CIA and our government, like where these ties come from.
What was the reasoning for?
Well, the 28 pages were originally classified by President George W. Bush for reasons that were never fully explained.
Yeah, I'm sure. Well,
you know, Bush did state in 2003 that releasing the pages would violate national security, which always, again, they always use that same fucking excuse, national security. It's like, okay, when you go back to like Oswald, you know, and look at the Kennedy assassination, it's like, okay, all these files on Oswald and like his financial records and all these things were all locked away due to national security.
What was the national security? He
What
was
are we
caught,
securing?
he was dead, he was dead,
Yeah,
everybody's
same
done.
thing with the 19 hijackers. If they are what you say they are, why is it national security that we as citizens can't read every single factoid about them and where they got their money, where it came from, and who was involved with how this all went down?
Yeah, I want to know who was responsible.
And thankfully, senators are, you know, speaking out against this.
Senator Bob Graham, a Democrat from Florida, who chaired the joint inquiry in 2002, has been beating the drum for more disclosure about 9/11 since then. He never understood why they were redacted in the first place. And this guy was, you know, chaired the Joint Inquiry Committee. He said, quote, "The Saudi government, without question, was supporting the hijackers who lived in San Diego. You can't have 19 people living in the United States for, in some cases, almost 2 years, taking flight lessons and other preparations without someone paying for it. But I think it goes much broader than that. The agencies from CIA and FBI have suppressed that information so American people don't have facts," end quote. And here's my conspiracy theory. It's a tiny one. I do believe that the reason that they're all suppressing all these facts, that I believe that the CIA and the FBI knows exactly which Saudis, how they're connected, where the money came from. But I believe that those connections are just, it's kind of like, we can't bring down the bankers because it'll bring down everything else. I think they're too close.
Yeah, I think
they were involved. I think there was,
when you look at someone
black
like,
bags
there's
of money.
there's a lot of evidence that points to like Prince Bandar, who was actually with, you know, the Bush White House during the attacks. You know, there's a lot of interesting layers when you really dig into this, and there's a lot of layers that end with U.S. involvement.
Right, and that's what I think is really unnerving to me, is that the narrative always goes Saudi Arabia, the Saudi Arabian government was involved, that they did it. It was all trying to push this agenda that we're supposed to be afraid of Saudi Arabia, instead of what the truth is, which is the same thing here in the United States. You shouldn't be afraid of America. You should be afraid of very specific people in power.
Yes.
And people who have money and have control over things here and have influence. Those are the people. And just like here in Saudi Arabia, I believe there are people who absolutely put up money for this, and we know who they are, and these are not the people that, it's not the whole country. I think everyone needs to be a little more.
We're protecting a web. We're protecting a web. We're not
that we're part of.
They're not protecting Saudi Arabia. They're protecting a web that we're part of. We're protecting an intelligence web that we're a part of, because I believe the intelligence.
Because we're connected
Because there's intelligence fingerprints all over these 19 hijackers. Sources, and one of these fingerprints is this. Sources in numerous press reports also suggest that the 28 pages include information about Abdusattar Sheikh, an FBI asset in San Diego, who Newsweek reported was friends with two of the hijackers who were based in San Diego. Sheikh was not allowed by the FBI or the Bush administration to testify before the 9/11 Commission or the JICI, the Joint Inquiry. What's interesting is that those are the two guys who also were living with this FBI informant in San Diego during the entire run-up to the attacks, but nobody knew what they were doing. See, again, this gets back to that thing. There's a lot of our own, fingerprints, I think, when you get into the monies behind who funded this attack. And I think that's why there's so much secrecy, because if they can release these pages, and we can start, us good researchers out there like David Ray Griffin and people like that can start putting these pieces together and seeing where the rope goes, where the trail leads, it's going to come back to us.